You know, I don't think we answered yesterday the question why human beings live the way they are living. I don't think we went into it sufficiently deeply. Did we answer it?
Well, we got to a point, we never answered that question. I left here I left our discussion.
No, I was thinking about last night,
Yeah.
I mean this morning rather, and it struck me that we hadn't answered it fully. We went to the question of, can thought observe itself?
Right, right.
Yes.
But I think we ought to answer that question.
But I think that what we said was on the way to answering it. I mean, that was relevant to the answer.
Yeah, relevant, but it's not complete.
No, it's not complete. It doesn't really get hold of that issue. Why do people live the way they do, and why don't they change? Or why,
Yes.
knowing this, they don't change?
Yeah. Could we go into that a little
Yes.
bit before we go on with...
Well, you know, my immediate answer to that question was that they like it, that it provides, and we came up against that and sort of pulled away, that it provides...
I think it's much deeper than that, don't you? Because what is involved, if you, economically, if one actually transformed one's conditioning, the way one lives, economically you might find yourself in a very difficult position.
Right.
And also, it's going against the current,
That's right.
completely against the current.
Are you saying that it might lead to a certain objective insecurity for
Objective insecurity.
It's not
yes.
merely a matter of the imagination.
No, actual insecurity.
Yes, you see, because a lot of the things we were discussing yesterday was some illusion of security or insecurity.
Yes.
But in addition, there's some genuine
Insecurity.
insecurity.
And also, doesn't it imply you have to stand alone?
It definitely, you would be in a new, I mean, you would be in a totally different position because you wouldn't be...
it's like completely not isolated, away from the stream. And that means you have to be alone, psychologically alone. And whether human beings can stand that.
Well, certainly this other is completely to be together.
That is herd instinct, which all the totalitarian people use, and also everything is together. Be people, don't be alone.
Be like them, be with them, be... I mean, but it's all based on competition in some way. You know, I'm better than you, or you're...
Of course, all the Olympiad is all
Right.
that.
Yes. Well, it's unclear because in some sense we should be together, but
Of
not in
course.
that sense. You see, I mean, that society is, it seems to me, is giving us some false sense of togetherness, which is really fragmentation. I mean,
Yeah, quite right,
but it's called being together.
quite.
It makes you feel that way for a moment.
So would you say the reason, one of the main reasons that human beings don't want to radically transform themselves is that they are really frightened not to belong to a group, to a herd, to something definite, which implies standing completely alone. And I think from that aloneness you can only cooperate, not the other way around.
Certainly if you... I mean, empirically, people don't like to be different, and that we know. And empirically, they...
You must have seen on the television Chinese boys training, the Russians,
Right.
all the Eastern satellite people, all of them training, and never alone.
Right.
Yes.
I once talked to a FBI man. He came to see me and he said, "Why is it that you walk alone all the time? Why are you so much alone? I see you are among the hills walking alone." And why? You follow it? He thought that's very disturbing.
Well, I think even anthropologists find that in more primitive peoples, the sense of being belonging to the tribe is even stronger. They feel completely lost. As the entire psychological structure depends on being in the tribe, you know.
And I think that's one of the reasons why we don't want to. We are frightened. After all, cling to the misery that you already know, then come into other kind of misery that you don't know.
That's right. But there's a whole action-reaction schema that is by being with others, and
you're safe.
You're safe, and you're. I mean, there's a. It even goes further. There's an action. I mean, it's almost as if you could say being with others is the offshoot of always living from you're this, I compare myself with you, and therefore I am together with you, sort of as the afterthought. You know what I mean?
Yes,
in other words, that's part of the circle.
But
I was going to say, even if you leave off comparison, I think there's something deeper in the sense that people feel this togetherness, this sense of belonging to the group. You know, even if they're not comparing, they just feel it's safe. You'll be taken care of, you know, like your mother may have taken care of you, and that you're in a sort of gently supported, and that fundamentally it'll be all right, you know, because the group is large, it's wise, it knows what to do. I think there's a feeling like that, you know, rather deep. The church may give that feeling.
yes, you've seen those animal pictures. They're always in herds.
Right. Except, you know, the mountain lion. Did you ever read about the lion? There's been some studies done by this fella, Shaler, in which he shows that the lions, there's always, in lion groups, there's always one who goes off alone.
Yes, yes. I heard
You read about that?
Yes, I heard about it.
Anyway, the cats are not tend
No,
to be
but
solitary.
the feeling of aloneness is much more, has got a great deal in it.
Yes.
It isn't just, it is not isolation.
Right, right.
But I was asking, you know, is there some, you know, people are seeking that sense that from the group you have some support in the whole, from the whole. Now, isn't it possible that you're discussing an aloneness in which you have a certain security? You see that people are seeking in the group a kind of security, it seems to me, that can arise actually only in aloneness.
Yes, that's right. In aloneness, there could be complete security.
But I wonder if we could discuss that, because seems there's an illusion there that people sense that you feel that you should have a sense of security.
Right.
And they're looking for it in the group, you see, saying the group being the representative of something universal.
Yeah.
Group is not the universe.
It isn't, but that's the way we think of it.
Of
You know,
course.
the little child thinks the tribe is the whole world. You know.
I mean, a human being, as he lives this way, if he transforms himself, he becomes alone. He is alone. Because he does, I mean, that aloneness is not isolation.
No.
And therefore it is a form of supreme intelligence.
Yes, but could you go into that a little further about it not being isolation? You see, because at first when you say alone, the feeling is that I'm here and entirely apart, right?
It is not apart, no.
That perhaps could
What
be.
do you think it is that a person experiences? I mean, I think there's one part of it that people, or all of people, seem to gravitate, like they have to be together. They have to be like other people. What would change that? That's one question. What would change anybody from that? And second of all, why should anybody change from that? And third of all, what does such a person experience when they're alone? They experience isolation.
I thought we dealt with that fairly thoroughly the other day. That is, after all, when one realizes the appalling state of the world and oneself, the disorder, the confusion, the misery and all the rest of it, and when one says, I must live, there must be a total change, a total transformation, he's already begun to move away from all that.
Right. Mm-hmm. But here he is all together, being together.
No, being together, what does it really mean?
I mean, being in this group.
Yes, what does it really mean?
Well, it's, being together is different from this having to be...
No, be identifying oneself with a group and remaining with a group. What does it mean?
Well,
What is involved in it?
That's right. What is involved in it? I think one of the things that's involved in it is what I said before, is it sets up this comparison.
No, apart from that, all that superficiality, what's involved in it? The group is me.
Right.
I am the group.
Right, right.
So therefore there is really, it's like cooperating with myself.
Mm-hmm. Well, I think you could say, like Descartes said, I think,
That's
therefore
right.
I am, meaning I think implies that I am there. And you
Yes.
say, I am in the group, therefore I am. You see, that's the sort of, if I'm not in the group, where am I, you see?
Yes.
In other words, I have no being at all. That's really the condition of the primitive tribe,
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
and for most of the members anyway. And so there's something deep there, because I feel that my very existence or my being psychologically is implied in being first in the group.
Right.
And the group has made me, I say everything about me has come from the group, do you see?
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
And I say I'm nothing without the group.
Yes, quite right. I am the group, in fact.
Yeah.
Right, right.
And therefore, if I'm out of the group, I feel everything is collapsing.
Mm-hmm.
You see, that seems to me is deeper than the question of competing, so who is the chief or who is the big shot or the...
That's all.
Right.
That's a secondary affair.
Well, except I wasn't really saying that that was important so much as I was saying that the very action of what I'm trying to get at is some of the moment-to-moment experience of being in the group, which is occupying.
But could I say, the more striking thing is what happens when such a person is taken out of the group and he feels lost, you see.
Right.
In other words, all that stuff seems unimportant because he doesn't know where he is.
Right, right. He doesn't know what, he has no orientation.
To life or to anything.
Right.
And see, therefore, that might be the greatest punishment that the group could make, would be to banish him.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Yes, they used to do that.
Yes.
I mean,
Oh, yes.
look what's happening in Russia.
Right.
When there's a dissenter, he's banished.
Right, right.
So
That's
Solzhenitsyn
always
and
been
Sakharov and all those people are against the group.
Right, right.
Because such a banishment is sort of robs him of his being. It's almost like killing him, you see.
Of course. I think that's where it is, that the fear of being alone.
Mm-hmm.
Alone is translated as being isolated from all this.
Right.
Well, could we say from the universal? You see, the
Yes,
false
from
universal.
the universal, yes.
You see, it seems to me you're implying that if you're really alone or genuinely alone, then you are not isolated from the universal.
Absolutely not. On the
Right,
contrary.
exactly.
That's what he's saying. But and therefore we have to be free of this false universal first.
This false identification,
With
this
the group.
false identification with the group.
The identification of the group as the universal. You see,
Right.
treating the group as if it were the universal
Right,
support of my being or something.
right, right. Well, there's something more to that. What's being said is that when that localized identification, that I am the group, that me, that false security is dropped, then one is opened up to the participation in
Something.
There's no question. You are the universe.
You are that.
You are the
You are
universe.
that,
You see,
right.
I can
You
remember.
are-
See, as a child, I felt that I was in a certain town. You see, and I felt that was the whole universe. And then I heard of another town beyond that, which seemed almost beyond the universe, and it seemed that must be the ultimate limits of all reality. You see.
Yeah, yeah.
So the idea of going beyond that would not have occurred to me. You see.
Right.
And I think that's the way. Saying that's the way the group is treated. To say,
Yes,
we know
yes.
abstractly it's not so, but in the feeling. that you have. It's like the little child.
Is it that human beings love or hold on to their own misery, confusion, all the rest of it, because they don't know anything else?
Yeah.
The known is safer than the unknown.
Right, right. The
And-
known, yes.
Now, to be alone implies, doesn't it, to step out of the stream,
Out of the known.
step out of the stream of this utter confusion, disorder, sorrow and despair, hope, travail, all that, to step out of all that.
Right.
And if you want to go much deeper into that, to be alone implies, doesn't it, not to carry the burden of tradition with you at all.
I mean, tradition being the group, then.
Group. Tradition also being knowledge,
Knowledge, but it comes basically from the group. Knowledge is basically collective.
collective.
I mean, it's collected by everybody.
So to be alone implies total freedom. And when there is that great freedom, it is the universe.
Could we go into that further? Because you see that to a person who hasn't seen this, it doesn't look obvious.
Well, it doesn't look obvious. I think David's right there, that to a person, to most people, I think, and I've tested this out recently, that the idea, even the deep feeling that you are the universe, that you don't have to do anything, that seems to be
So that's the most dangerous thing. That's the most dangerous thing to say. How can you say you are the universe when you are in total confusion? When you are unhappy, miserable, anxious, you follow jealous, envious, all that. How can you say you're the universe? Universe implies total order. I mean,
Yes, the cosmos in Greek meant order.
Order, cosmos, yes.
Chaos was the opposite, you see.
yes.
But
No, listen. Universe, cosmos means order.
Right.
And chaos is what we have.
Chaos is what we live with.
That's right.
How can I think I have universal order in me? That's the good old trick of the mind which says, disorder is there, but inside you there's perfect order, old boy.
Well,
And that's an illusion. It's a concept which thought has put there, and it gives me a certain hope. And therefore it's an illusion, it has no reality. What has actual reality is my confusion,
right.
my chaos. And I can imagine, I can project a cosmos,
Right.
but that's equally illusory. So I must start with the fact of what I am,
Right.
which is I am in a chaos.
I belong to a group.
And chaos is the group.
Right.
They're political leaders, religious, you follow? The whole thing is a chaos. So to move away from that into cosmos, which is total order, means not that I am alone, there is a total order which is not associated with disorder, chaos. That is alone.
Yeah, so can we go into that? Suppose several people are doing that, or in
Doing
that
what?
state. I mean, moving into cosmos, into order,
Order,
out of the chaos of society.
that's right.
Now, then, are they all alone?
No, Of course.
No, that I want to get it clear. You see,
And no, they don't feel alone there. There is only order.
are there different people?
So, would you say, suppose, no, I can't suppose, we three are in cosmos.
Yeah.
There is only cosmos, not you, Dr. Baum, Dr. Schoenberg, and me.
Therefore, we're still alone.
That which is order is alone.
Yeah, because I looked up the word alone in the dictionary. Basically, it's all one, is what it
All one, yes, yes.
in other words, that there's no fragmentation.
There is no fact. Therefore, there is no tree. And that's marvelous, sir.
But you jumped away there. We got chaos and confusion. That's what we got.
So, as we said, to move away from that, most people are afraid, which is to have total order.
Right.
Alone, as you point out, all one.
Right.
Therefore, there is no fragmentation when there is cosmos.
Right. But most people are in confusion and chaos. That's all they know.
So, how do you move away from that? That is the whole question.
That is the question. Here we are in chaos and confusion. We're not over there.
No, because you may be frightened of that.
Maybe frightened of that.
an idea of being alone.
How can you be frightened of an idea?
No, that's
But
easy.
aren't you frightened of tomorrow? Which is an idea.
Okay, okay. So it's an idea.
Yeah, that's all. They are frightened of an idea which they have projected, which says, "My God, I'm alone," which means I'm nobody to rely on.
Right.
Nobody
But that's
whom
an
I can-
idea.
Well, let's go slowly because also
Yes,
there's
this
some
is very important.
correct. We've said that to a certain extent it's genuinely so. You are not being supported by society anymore.
right.
You do have a certain genuine danger because you have withdrawn from the web of society.
Yes. If you are a
Right.
Protestant
No, you
in a
see-
Catholic country, it becomes very difficult.
Well,
No, I think we're confused here. I really
Yeah.
do, because I think if we've got confusion, if we've got chaos,
No, not if, it is so.
it is so. Right. Okay, I go with you. Now we've got chaos and confusion. That's what we've got. Now, if you have an idea about being alone while in chaos and confusion, that's just another idea, another thought, another part of the chaos.
Yeah, that's all.
Is that right?
That's right.
Okay. Now, that's all we've got is chaos
well, wait,
and confusion.
I feel we watch the question of language because you see when you use the word all, it closes things. You see.
Okay. All right.
In other words, we were saying yesterday that language has to be more free in its usage, a bit
Right.
poetic perhaps. And if you use this word all, you have to watch it.
All right, but we have this. We have
chaos, right.
Okay, now that's what we have.
But
now, what is going to see? I have an idea. Let me say what my idea is. That most people are, let's say, unaware, unwilling, don't believe in, don't know anything about this all one.
I'm not talking about
Cosmos,
that. We're
right.
not talking about
That's right. We don't have that.
that. No.
All we got right now is chaos.
So,
What about the word all?
Okay, we got chaos. All right. Chaos.
chaos.
Right.
Now, wait a minute. Being in chaotic condition, to move away from that, they have the feeling that they will be alone.
Right.
In the sense of isolated.
Isolated.
Not the sense of all one.
Isolated.
Right. That's what I'm getting
Yeah.
at.
They will be lonely,
That's right.
isolated.
That's
of
right.
that they are frightened.
That not frightened in terror.
Yeah, but not- yeah.
Therefore, they say, I would rather stay where I am in my little pond rather than face isolation.
That's right. They
And
not
that
o-
may be one of the reasons that the human beings don't radically change.
That's right.
Isn't
That's
it?
right.
That's like this primitive tribe. The worst punishment is to be banished. You see, you're isolated.
Well, you don't have to go to a primitive
No, but
tribe.
I'm-
I see people and talk to people all the time.
course,
Patients come to me. They say, look, Saturday night came. I couldn't stand to be alone. I called up 50
Yes.
people looking for someone to be with.
I know.
Yeah, and it's much
I had
the
to
same.
join this group, huh?
It's much the same, but I think it comes in a more simple and pure form there. I mean,
Right.
people just frankly admit it, and they know that's the case. You see.
Right.
So that may be one of the reasons why human beings don't change.
Right.
The other is we are so heavily conditioned to accept things as they are. I mean, we don't say to ourselves, why should I live this way?
That's certainly true. We're definitely conditioned to believe this
No,
is all it
we
can
never-
be.
Well,
Even-
that's important. You said that's the explanation. We were conditioned to believe this is all that is possible. You see,
Right.
this word "all"
Yeah.
is one of the traps that's
Maybe
holds us.
that's the very fact, right?
Yeah. You see, if you say this is all that can be, then what can you do?
Nothing,
Right.
nothing.
You see, that's this use of language. That that this way of using language may be a change.
Quite
you
right,
see.
sir.
So you have to
I mean,
watch
it's
that
the
word.
condition.
But the word "all,"
That's what he's pointing out.
the word "all." You see, the word. Well,
When you say this is all I know,
Right.
you've already stopped.
Right. Right.
because what does the word "all" do? You see, it closes everything.
Closes
It
everything.
says that this thing is all of reality. You see, it's got to be real.
Yes.
And
yes.
one thing is
Right.
it turns an idea into reality, because apparently it gives that sense of reality to the idea, because if you say that's all there is, then it has to be real. Do you see what I mean?
Right. Yes, I think that's a very good point. I mean, that's very much like the points that we've been making, where the very act of the thinking, that thought is complete, where a thought becomes reality,
Yes.
is also, I mean, so that again, the language itself is the condition.
So, shall we say human beings don't radically transform themselves? They are frightened of being isolated from the group,
Right.
banished from the group. That's one reason.
That's one reason.
And also, traditionally, we are so conditioned that we would rather accept things as they are. Our misery, our chaos, all the rest of it, and not say, for God's sake, let me change this.
Right.
Well, we have to get out of this conviction that the way things are is all that can be, you see.
Yeah, that's right.
Mm-hmm.
You see, the religions have pointed this out by saying there is another world.
Right.
Aspire to that. This is a transient world, it doesn't matter. Live as best as you can in your sorrow, but hand over your sorrow to Jesus or to Christ or somebody, and you'll be perfectly happy in the next world.
Right.
So the communists say there is no next world, but make the best of this world.
Well, I think they would say that there's happiness in the future in this world, you see, if
Yes,
we really...
yes. Sacrifice your children to your everything for a future, which is exactly the same thing.
But it seems that it's sort of a transformation of the same thing, that if we say we have this society as it is and we want to give it up, but we invent something similar
It's quite.
to go to.
Mm-hmm. We have to invent it. It has to be similar if we're inventing it.
So
out
we
of the
really have,
system.
yeah, but it seems it's an important point that it's a subtle way of not being alone.
Quite
I mean,
right.
that's what you mean, to go ahead and make it out of the old
Yeah,
ideas.
To make heaven or the future.
Yes.
So, what will make human being change? Radically.
I don't know. I think that this is such a, you see, even the idea that you're suggesting here is that they say it can't be different or it is all the same. That is part of the system itself.
Agreed.
You know, it's
Agreed.
all-
Now,
all-
wait. May I ask you a question? Why don't you change? What is preventing you?
I would say that that's a tough question. I suppose the answer would be that I don't know how to answer it.
Because you've never asked yourself
That's
that
right.
question. right?
Not radically.
Nah,
Well, I mean, I guess, you know,
we're asking basic questions.
right. I don't really know the answer to the question.
Now, so move away from that.
Yeah.
So is it, as our structure, as our whole society, all religion, all culture is based on thought.
Right.
And thought says, I can't do this. Therefore, an outside agency is necessary to change me.
Right.
With the outside agency is the environment,
Right.
the leader, Hitler, this, or Stalin and Mao, or somebody outside, or God.
Mm-hmm.
God is your own projection of yourself, obviously.
Mm-hmm.
And you believe in God, you believe in Mao's, you believe, but you're still the same.
That's right. That's right.
You may identify with the state and so on, but you're still good old me there is operating.
Mm-hmm.
So, is it thought doesn't see its own limit and realize it cannot change itself.
Mm-hmm.
Realize it.
Well, I think that something more subtle happens, that thought loses track of something, and it doesn't see that it itself is behind all this.
Of course, we said that.
Yeah.
Thought has produced all this chaos.
But thought doesn't really see that, you know, abstractly, but I think, you say in the bones.
What about the whole business that what thought does, in fact, is it communicates that through gradual change.
That's all invention of thought.
Yes, but that's where I think the hook is.
No, sir, please just let's.
Sure.
Thought has put this world together,
Right.
technologically as well as psychologically. And the technological world is all right, leave it alone. We won't even discuss it when
Right.
we come to observe. So psychologically, thought has built all this world in me and outside me, the churches, or society, and so on. And does thought realize it has made this mess, this chaos?
I would say it doesn't, that it tends to look on this chaos as independently existent. Do you see that?
But it is its baby.
It is, but it's very hard
Doesn't
for it
see
to
that.
see that. You see it. We were discussing that at the end of the hour yesterday, really.
Yes, that's what we're coming back
And
to that.
this question of how thought gives a sense of reality.
Yeah, well, that's
And you see, we're saying technology deals with something that thought made, but it is actually an independent reality once it's made.
Made it like the table,
Or
like
the
those
machine or
cameras.
something, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But but you could say the thought also creates a reality which it calls independent, but isn't. You see, not. See, I thought of a good example of that is the corporation. You see,
Yes, yes.
you see, the people say are working for the corporation, that it makes money, it loses money, or they strike against the corporation, and so on. But actually, you could say, where is the corporation? You see, it's not in the buildings because,
They're part of it.
well, anyway, if all the people were gone, the buildings would be nothing, right? And if the buildings all burned down, the corporation could still exist as long as
right.
people think it exists.
Right. And it pays taxes.
It
The
pays
corporation pays taxes,
You
not the
see, it's-
individual.
So, does thought realize, see, aware that it has created this chaos?
No.
Why not? But you, sir, do you realize it?
I realize that thought...
Not you. Does thought,
Yeah.
you see how I've asked you a
Right.
different question. Does thought, which is you,
Right.
thinking, does your thinking realize that the chaos it has created?
I'm saying that thinking tends to attribute the chaos to something else, either to something outside or to me who is inside. I mean, I would say at most I would say that I have done it, but then thinking is is saying that I am doing the thinking. Do you see what I'm driving
Yes,
at?
yes.
That
But
there's something thinking. I was going to say it's like the corporation. Thinking has invented a sort of a corporation that is responsible, is supposed to be responsible for thinking. Do you understand that? We could call it Thinking Incorporated.
thinking, quite.
And you see, the corporation is supposed to be thinking,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So we give credit for thought to this corporation called me.
Mm-hmm. That's a good way
Right.
to look at it. Yeah.
So
Thought has created me.
but
And
it
it
thought
creates
also
an institution.
But it also thought has said that me is not thought, but a reality independent
of course,
thought.
of course.
You see, like thought treats the corporation as if it were there, just standing like the buildings or the table. It says it's a reality. It's not a mere. You see, I think it's in this question of reality. You see, if you say there are certain realities which are independent of thought, right? But there are certain things which are appearances, like if you're standing on a cliff looking at the ocean, you see all the play of light,
Mm-hmm.
which is not an independent reality, but it's due to the sky, the
Of
sea,
course,
and me. You see, all interrelated. So it's important to keep clear whether it's a reality that arises through this whole, it's dependent on this whole movement, or whether it stands self-generated, independent. And thought is treating me as an independent reality.
Of course.
And thought is saying that it is coming from me.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And therefore it doesn't take credit for what it does.
But
Yeah.
to me, thought has created the me,
That's right. Yeah.
and so the me is not separated from thought.
Right.
It is the structure of thought,
Right. Right.
the nature of thought that has made me.
Right.
Now, does your thinking or does your thought realize this?
I would say yes and no. It's like
no,
in flashes it does.
No, not in flashes. You don't see that table in flashes. It is always there.
I think what actually happens, though, is that you see the action. I wonder, it seems as though to really, if we could be honest about this,
Yes,
and
sir.
completely true about it, what do we see when what happens, or what is the actuality of thought seeing this creation?
No, we asked a question yesterday, we stopped there. Does thought see itself in movement?
Right,
Yeah.
right.
The movement has created the me, created
Right.
the chaos, created
Right.
the division, created the conflict, jealousy, anxiety, fear, all that.
Right. Now, what I'm asking is another question. That yesterday we said that we came to a moment where we said, well, thought stops.
No, that's much later. Please, just stick to one thing.
Okay, but thought, what I'm trying to get at is what is the actuality of thought seeing itself?
Tell me, you want me to describe it.
No, I don't want you to describe it. I'm trying to get at what is my actuality, or what is the actuality that thought sees? And as I observe this, again, we're in the language here, the problem of language, but it seems that thought sees and forgets.
No, please, I'm asking a very simple question.
Right.
Don't complicate it. Does thought see the chaos it has created? That's all. Which means, is thought aware of itself as a movement?
Mm-hmm.
Not, I am aware of thought as a movement,
Mm-hmm.
But you see,
which the I has been created by thought.
Right.
I think the question which is relevant to that is, why does thought keep on going? You see, why does it sustain itself? You see, because as long as it sustains itself, it does produce something like an independent reality, an illusion of one.
Why does thought?
Why does thought keep on going? You see,
What is
when
my
it's irrelevant.
relationship to thought?
You are thought. For there is not you related to
But
thought.
that's the way when the language says there is one. It says that I am the entity who is doing who
Of course,
produces
of
the
course.
thought. Do you see it? Which is to say, like say General Motors saying, I am the corporation which is producing automobiles. Do you see?
Right.
Uh,
Yeah, but look, right, you're right. How can I get it through? The question is, I say to you, what is my relationship to thought? You say to me, you are thought. You, in some way, what you say is clear, but that's still what's coming from me. Do you see? In other words, that's still the way thought is moving. To say it's my relationship to thought.
well, that's the point, to say that can this very thought stop right now? Do you see?
Yes.
In other words, what is sustaining this whole thing at this very moment was the question I was trying to get at.
Yes, that's
And,
the question.
in other words, say we have a certain insight, but something happens to sustain the old process, nevertheless, right now.
That's right. Right now, thought keeps moving.
No, Dr. Baum asked a very good question which we haven't answered. He said, why does thought move?
When it's
What-
irrelevant to you.
Why is it always moving?
That's right.
So what is movement? Movement is time. Right?
That's too quick. What are you doing? Movement is time.
Oh, of course.
But I think, you know, that there's...
Movement is movement.
No.
That's
From
movement.
here to there.
Right.
But
This is, what about
physically,
that?
yeah.
Right.
From here to there,
Right.
physically. From here to London, from here to New York,
Right.
from and also psychologically, from here to there.
Right.
I am this, I must be that.
Right. But if a thought is not necessarily all that.
You see, thought is the movement. We are examining movement, which is thought.
Thought.
Look, if thought stops, there is no movement.
Yeah, I know you. I'm trying to. This has to be made very clear.
See, I think there's this kind of a step that might help. You see,
What is that?
I ask myself, you see, what is it that makes me go on thinking or talking? In other words, I often can watch people and see they're in a hole just because they keep on talking. If they would stop talking, the whole
That's
problem
right.
would vanish, right? I mean, it's just this flow of words that... So, because what they say then comes out as if it were reality into them, and then they say, that's my problem, it's real, and I've got to think some more. Do you see, I think there's a kind of a feedback saying, see, suppose I say, well, I've got a problem, I'm suffering, right?
You've got an eye, though.
Yeah, I mean, I think that, do you see? So, therefore, I have a sense I am real.
Right.
You see, I'm thinking of my suffering, but there's implicit that it is I who is there,
Right.
and that the suffering is real because I am real.
Right.
And then comes the next thought, which is, since that is real, I must think some more,
Right.
because if it were, that would be
It
the
feeds
case.
on itself.
Yeah, and
Right.
then one of the things I must think is, what is my problem, which is that I am suffering. In other words, I'm compelled to keep on thinking that thought all the time. Do you see? And maintaining myself in existence. Do you see what I'm
Right.
driving at? That there's a feedback.
Which means, if thought is movement, which is time, if there is no movement, I am dead. I am dead.
Yes, if that movement stops, then that sense that I am there being real must go, because
Yeah.
Right.
that sense that I am real is the result of thinking, right?
Do you see this is extraordinary?
Of course it is.
No, actually, in actuality, not in theory,
Right. Right.
one realizes thought as movement,
Right.
right?
Right.
There is not I realize thought as a movement. Thought itself realizes a movement.
Right.
It is in movement.
And in this movement, it creates an image of
me
who
or-
is supposed to be moving.
Yeah, yes.
Right. Right.
Now, when that movement stops,
Mm-hmm.
there is no me.
Right.
The me is the time,
Right.
put together by time,
Right.
which is thought.
Right.
So do you, listening to this, realize the truth of it? Not the verbal, logical statement, but the truth of such an amazing thing. Therefore, there is an action entirely different from that. The action of thought as movement brings about a fragmentary actions, contradictory actions. When the movement as thought comes to an end, there is total action.
And can you say then that whatever technical thought comes about then is in order?
Of course.
In other words, that it doesn't mean that thought is permanently gone.
No.
There could still be a movement that had its proper place,
Yeah.
its fitting order at the
proper
right, in the
place.
proper time.
Yes.
And it comes about. The brain can still do that thing.
Yeah.
Right.
So, a human being, is he afraid of all this? Unconsciously, deeply, he must realize the ending of me. You understand? And that is really a most frightening thing.
Yes,
Me, my knowledge, my books, my wife, you follow the whole thing which thought has put together, and you are asking me to end all that.
Right.
Yes. I mean, can't you say it's the ending of everything? It's because everything that I know is in there.
Yeah, absolutely. So you see, really, I am frightened, a human being is frightened of death. Not the biological death,
To die now.
is the death of this coming to an end.
Right.
And therefore he believes in God, reincarnation, dozen other comforting things, but in actuality, when thought as movement, when thought realizes itself as a movement and sees that movement has created the me, the divisions, the quarrels, the political, follow the whole structure of the chaotic world, when it thought realizes, it sees the truth of it and ends. Therefore it is in cosmos. Then there is cosmos. Now, you listen to this, how do you receive it?
Do you want me to
Receive it.
receive it?
I offer you something.
Right.
How do you receive it? But this is very important.
Yes. Thought seizes
And then
movement.
how do you receive it? How does the public who listens to all this
Yes.
say, how am I listening to this? What is it trying to tell me?
How?
He says, I'm not telling you anything. He says, listen to what I'm saying and find out for yourself whether what thought as movement. In that movement has created all this, both the technological world, which is useful, which is necessary, and this chaotic world.
Right.
How do you listen to it, or the public, another who is not here, listen to it?
Right.
How do you listen to it? How do you, what takes place in you when you listen to it?
Panic.
No. Is it?
Yes.
Huh?
There's a panic about the death. There's that death, a sort of fear of the death. There's a seeing, there's a sense of seeing, and then there's a fear of that death.
Which means you have listened to the words.
Right.
The words have awakened the fear,
Right.
but not the actuality of the fact.
Well, I wouldn't say that. I think that's a little unfair. They
I'm
awaken
asking.
they awaken the actuality of the fact, and then there seems to be a very quick process. There's an actuality of a fact, and there seems to be a silence, a moment of great clarity that gives way to a kind of feeling in the pit of the stomach where things are dropping out, and then there's a kind of withholding, right. I think there's a whole movement there.
So you are describing humanity.
Yes, I'm trying, yes. And I'm describing me.
Me, who are the
It's all the
humanity?
same.
Right.
You're the
right,
viewer, the
Right.
people who are listening.
Right, that's right.
So
There's a sense of, well, what will happen tomorrow?
No, that's not the point. What
Yeah.
will happen
That is, I'm telling you, that's that
No.
fear.
when thought realizes as a movement, and that movement has created all this chaos, total chaos, not just patchy, but complete disorder. When it realizes that, what takes place? Actually, you're not frightened. There's no fear. And listen to it carefully, there's no fear. Fear is the idea brought about by an abstraction. You understand? You have made a picture of ending and frightened of that ending.
Well, you're right. You're right. There's stop.
There
and
is
then-
no fear. If
There's
you
no
listen.
fear, and then there's
There is no fear when the actuality takes place.
that's right. When the actuality takes place,
When the
there's
fact-
silence.
With the fact, there is no fear.
Yeah, but as soon as the thought comes in,
That's right.
That's right. Now, wait, no, don't go away.
No, I won't go.
When
I've
the
got-
thought
I've
comes
got
in.
3 minutes more.
Okay, 3 minutes.
Go on.
The fact and the actuality, no fear.
That's it. That's it.
Right. But then the thought comes.
No. Then it's no longer a fact. You can't remain with the fact.
well, that's the same as to say you keep on thinking, isn't it?
That keep on moving.
Yeah.
I didn't.
Well, I mean, as soon as you bring thought in, that's not a fact, that's an imagination or a fantasy, which is felt to be real,
Right.
but it is not so, right?
Right. Right.
Therefore, you're not with the fact any
So
longer.
we're saying something
You
there.
discovered something extraordinary.
Right.
When you are faced with fact, there's no fear.
Right.
So all fear is thought, then, is that
Yes, all, that's right.
That's a big mouthful.
No,
Yeah.
no.
I know, but it's
all thought is fear.
That's
All
the other way
thought
around.
is sorrow.
Right.
That goes both ways, that all fear is thought and all thought is fear.
Yeah,
Right.
of course.
And except the kind of thought that arises with the fact alone.
I want to interject something right here, if we got 1 second, and that is, it seems to me we have discovered something quite important right here, and that is, at that actual seeing, then the instant of attention is at its peak.
No, something new takes place.
Yes.
Something totally that you have never looked at, or it has never been
Right.
understood or experienced, whatever it is. There is a totally different thing happening.
But isn't it important that we acknowledge this in our thought, I mean in our language,
Yes.
as we're
yeah.
doing now? In other words, that if it happened and we didn't acknowledge it, then we're liable to
Hip
fall
hop,
back.
of course, of course.
I don't get it.
Well, we have to say not only it happens, but we have to see it that it happens, and we have to say that it happens.
Well, then are we creating a place to localize there? Or?
No.
No, what he is saying is very simple. He's saying, does this actuality take place?
Right.
And can you remain with that? Can thought not move in, but remain only with that fact? So it's like saying, can remain totally with sorrow. Not move away, not say, well, it shouldn't be, should be, and how am I to get over it, how self-pity and all the rest of it. Just totally remain with that thing, with the fact. Then you have an energy which is extraordinary.
Right.
Can you? It's time.